170 meters away.
This was not all bad though, as it led me to a level 60 Pteranodon that I knocked out and started taming. Soon after, I knocked out a level 114 PT and continued taming. I also tried taming a moss choth, but I kind of forgot how their taming works, so I kind of wasted half the day. The level 60 tamed as night fell. Finally, I executed some turtles to get keratin for the PT saddles. Day 2, I farmed berries for tranks, only to be ambushed by a pack of hungry raptors. I used pebbles connected with fiber to immobilize them, and then proceeded to shoot arrows at their skull. I continued to execute turtles as they are pretty tanky and only give 15 keratin per turtle. I needed 75 for the PT saddle.
Yeah. And we're gonna name him Dream.
Yeah, boy.
Now
I put the saddle on him and whistled for George to follow and began the journey. I flew around the whole map looking for a good temporary base location with metal, water, wood, and berries. After flying through the redwoods, which is always a wonderful experience, I settled on this mountain just past the redwoods. It satisfied all my conditions, so I set up a little thatch base there. I got a smithy, metal tools, a crossbow, and a water jar. Oh, and I also got a trash yellow drum.
wow. Okay, that's actually not bad.
I started today by farming berries for tranks. My hands weren't cutting it anymore, and my desires for metal were growing. This meant that I needed only one thing, an Anki. I then flew around the mountain with a torch in my hand so that I didn't freeze to death, in the hopes that I would find an Anki. I found 3, but they were all being murdered by a 168 Carno. Because I was freezing, I had to return back to my thatch hut. That's covered in fire. That would not end well under normal circumstances, but this is Ark. It'll find another way to kill me anyway. Dream was bullied a few times, but my trusty bolas and quick reflexes saved him. After all of that hard work, there was a level 162 Anki stuck in a metal node just waiting to be tamed. I didn't know it was possible to be that lucky and unlucky at once. After checking Dodo decks to see how many tranks it would take, I knocked out the Anki with ease. That is the slowest dino in the game, bro. I then placed some spike walls around it to protect it from the scorpions, sabers, RGs, Carnos, and Rexes that engulf my base. Yeah, I have got to move soon. I fed it berries to start the taming. I then looked for RGs, as they can carry a lot of weight. I didn't find any good levels, though. Day 4 started with me getting the most offensively bad yellow drop that I thought of quitting the 100 days. But we have to keep moving. While my Anki was taming, I was tired of constantly freezing to death in the mountains. I decided that I needed fur armor, so I went to the edge of the redwoods trying to kill moose. They give really little pelt, so I only ended up getting enough for one piece. I then went for another trash yellow drop and got yet another trash saddle. Who needs a mastercraft iguanodon saddle, I'm just saying. However, my luck turned around later in the day.
Oh! 180 RG. 180 RG.
I quickly went back to base to place gates, but other RGs kept attacking me, so I couldn't properly place the trap. I then laid the trap right next to my base and managed to kite it all the way there. I then tranked it out and fed it the prime of inferior RGs to get it to tame better. While it was asleep, I loaded all of my belongings into it so that I could make the journey to my permanent base location. My Anki woke up, so I farmed metal with it. I loaded this into the RG as well. My RG finished taming later in the night, and it was the happiest I had been in the whole 100 days so far. I named it Astro Talon.
Day 5.
Before dawn on day 5, I wanted to get off this cold, harsh mountain. I settled on a base location nearby that I knew about. It would have metal, water, wood, and stone. I whistled both of my PTs and picked up my Anki and set out. Once I arrived, I surveyed the area and found beaver dens. I collected the cementing paste and killed some raptors using my RG. I then started building my base. Day Day 6 was a continuation of Day 5. I just farmed and built my base. I then went to make some cryopods, but I had to let Astro Talon take care of some weaklings first. But I forgot the oil, so I went back to base, came back, and crafted 3 cryopods. Farming for my base was getting painful to do by hand, so I wanted a Dodig. These guys are insane at gathering stone and are decent fighters. I prepared spiked walls, trank arrows, and narcotic for the Dodig before I set out to look for one. After looking around the mountains for a while, I found a 114 Dodig. It was at about half health, so I brought it back to base and had to wait a bit before I could trank it out, so that it didn't roll up into a ball. While waiting for the Dodig to heal, I made spark powder and took my first steps into a modern future by crafting a fabricator. I then just kinda awkwardly flew around the map, waiting, but I did get a good yellow drop. Finally, the Dodig was healed enough for me to trank it out, so that's exactly what I did. Day 8 and I was still waiting for my Dodig to tame. Luckily though, I found a level 96 Baryonyx. I made a cheap wooden 2x1 trap to tame it and set off to the swamp. I had to fight off Capros, Perlavia, and worst of all, Microraptors. Finally, after 20 minutes of straight up torture, I laid down the trap. This was only half the battle fought. I still needed to get the Baryonyx to follow me into the trap. Everything but the Baryonyx wanted to go into the trap. Finally though, at the end of the day, I managed to trap and KO the Baryonyx. Oh, and my Dodig finished taming. I wanted to find a female Baryonyx so that I could get a breeding pair and an imprinted Baryonyx to do caves with. Unsurprisingly, I didn't find any high levels, but I did find a 174 male Gigantopithecus. I raced back to base to get some kibble, and then started taming the beast. I made a trap and stuck food up its butt. When it tamed, I named it John Cena. I wanted to level John Cena, but I thought he was much stronger than he actually was. While leveling him with Astro Talon, I got Microraptor right underneath the Bronto that I was attacking. My health was pretty good on the Gigantopithecus, so I thought I was fine. But John Cena, being the actual intellectual he is, went right under the Bronto's feet and was constantly getting stomped on. After I got Microraptor, I ran back to John Cena with only a sliver of health left. I managed to cryo him, but with less than 200 health left. Just 3 more stomps would have killed him. That was pretty stressful, so I ended up just farming stone on the mountain before night fell. Day 10 and I was still traumatized from the day before. I went on a crystal run to calm my nerves and decided that I needed strong creatures that could kill anything except a Giga. I wanted an aloe pack. I spent the whole day looking but didn't find any good levels. In the evening, I built a partial wooden roof over my base. My luck turned around on day 11. I was tired of looking for aloes, so I decided that I wanted a Thyla. These things are pretty fast, can jump far, climb walls, and are pretty strong. The only problem is that they are quite rare. After about 20 minutes of searching and killing, I managed to find a level 150 just waiting to be tamed. I laid out my aloe trap nearby and let it pounce me. I then picked it up and dropped it into the trap. I cleared the area of anything that could interfere with the taming process and used my long neck to trank it out. Thylas are a pretty weird tame. They prefer cooked meat to raw, so I went around killing creatures with prime and cooking their meat in the campfire that I made. I did not realize how fast Thylas wake up, so I had to quickly fly back to base and grab 200 narcotics to keep it down. They also tame really slowly without kibble, which is annoying. Day 12 and my Thyla was unrendered. This meant that I was not taming it in the background. I did not realize this until about halfway through the day, so I went back to render it. I also did a metal run. By the end of the day, my Thyla finally tamed. So I carried it back to base with my RG and made a saddle for him. I named him Strike. Day 13, I went out to level my Thyla. I just killed anything and everything that was near my base, including alphas. From an alpha raptor, I got a pretty nice journeyman crossbow that would be useful for taming in underwater caves. I then crafted campfires to make charcoal production faster because my thirst for gunpowder was growing as I was getting ready to do my first artifact cave. Continuing my lucky streak, I found a level 150 male Rex at the river, just outside my base. I made a trap, but leading the Rex in there took over 10 minutes because it kept aggroing to everything. Using myself as bait wasn't working, so instead I just aggroed it to a wild creature, then picked up that creature with my RG. I would then lead it towards the trap. I then knocked out the Rex with my new crossbow. All was going as expected until I found a 162 Spino in the same place that my Rex was. Even though I didn't really have a use for it, the level was way too tempting. Wow, am I getting lucky. While the Rex was taming, I farmed narco berries with my Anki to prepare for taming the beast. On day 14, my lucky streak ended with a trash yellow drop. I also crafted shotgun ammo for my boomstick with the charcoal from my campfires. I then used wild bait to lure the Spino into my trap. Unfortunately, it got out the first time.
What?
But I used more bait and trapped it again. I then proceeded to shoot Tranks up its butt. Spinos prefer raw prime fish meat, so I used my sickle to get some prime fish from some salmon native to my river. I killed an alpha raptor while it was taming, but didn't get any upgrades from it. When my Spino tamed, I named him C-Rex. He was the strongest creature I had so far, so I went on a killing spree. I even killed my first alpha Carno with him, because the knockback from his attacks prevented me from getting hit. Such challenge, bro. In the evening, I built a ladder going all the way up my base for easier access. Days 15 to 16 were the most frustrating so far. Both of the days were spent in the winding pack cave. I used Strike, my Thyla, to do it, and he was too big to fit in some of the places, making me wait for the cryo cooldown every corner. I also had to fight Sarcos, Piranha, and all sorts of bad cave creatures. I ended up going in circles until I finally found a shortcut to the artifact. I then emerged from the cave on day 16.
Finally.
I spent 1.5 hours looking for a shiny object in a video game. After Strike managed to survive this cave, I named him Strike the Beast because he's a beast. The rest of the day 16 was spent doing my first poly run in the icebergs. I beat the lifeless bodies of penguins so hard with clubs, it was very satisfying, I'm not gonna lie. Day 17 and I was evolving. I placed down a generator and a refrigerator. I was slowly moving away from needing wood to power everything. Because of my recent industrialization, my needs for cementing paste were growing. I knew that if you took a frog to the swamp cave, you could get a lot of cementing paste. So I went to the swamp and brought back a level 84 frog. They do extra damage against insects, so I was hoping that it would be able to survive. I crafted scuba gear so that I would not die from the toxic gas in the swamp cave while my frog was taming. When my frog tamed, I named him Bait because let's be honest, that's what he is. I set out to the swamp cave assuming that it was going to be easy because of the damage buff that frogs get when fighting insects. However, I ended up almost getting melted by them and escaped with a little cementing paste that I had. I used the paste to make a journeyman pump shoddy blueprint that I wanted. The entirety of day 18 was spent going around the whole map looking for Rexes. I spent 1 hour flying on my RG and killing low-level Rexes just to find nothing. Side note, the sound gets really annoying after hearing it for an hour. Day 19, I got 2 very lucky finds. Before dawn, I found a level 120 Baryonyx just outside my base. It was the opposite gender of my current one, so I quickly tamed it. This now meant we had a breeding pair. I mated the Baryonyx and got 2 eggs. I hatched them but only kept 1 baby. For the foreseeable future, this was going to be my spelunking creature. I then spent a little time looking for a high-level female Rex, but of course I didn't find any. The second lucky find was a 180 aloe very near my base. I was not planning on using aloes, but the level was too tempting. If I found a high-level male, I could maybe use them to find some of the easier bosses. There were 2 Rexes near my aloe, so I quickly got rid of them with Astro Talon.
What'd I get?
Before dawn on day 20, I killed an alpha raptor that was lurking near my taming aloe. I continued to search for good Rexes until I found a 162 Rex near my base. I was really excited until I realized that it was a male, the same gender as my other Rex. It was a really good level though, so I tamed it up regardless.
Okay.
My aloe finished taming and I brought it back to base. While it was taming, I continued to search for high-level female Rexes, but never found any. This game is really fun. Day 21 and I continued to search for high-level female Rexes. Eventually, I came across a level 138 female Rex on Carno Island. It was not a great level, but I was really tired of searching for a higher level. I went back to base to make the trap, and on my way back to Carno Island, my male Rex tamed. His stats were even worse than the last Rex, so I named him fittingly. I also got a decent yellow drop.
Yes!
I then trapped the Rex and started tranking it out. Because this is Carno Island, I used metal spiked walls to protect my Rex. I headed back to base and made a pipe to get water to my base. This would not only keep me alive, but help me grow some crops too. After this, I realized that I needed more space to store my dinos. As it was, we were already quite cramped, and because I will be breeding dinos a lot, I would need a lot more space to store them. So I used my Dodic to auto-harvest some stone to make a 20 by 20 platform hanging off the edge of my base. This was going to require a lot of resources, as 400 stone seedlings aren't cheap. I went to the mountains with my Dodic to farm stone.
Oh.
Day 22 had no footage. I don't know where it went, but my note said that I farmed thatch with my Anki for the platform and wood with my hatchet. I also started breeding my Rexes to get the bloodline going. On day 23, I finally put my 3 days of hard work to use and built the platform. I also crafted a behemoth gate to put at the entrance of the platform. I then continued to breed the Rexes until I got a male Rex with all the good stats, a perfect M. I didn't bother imprinting him because he was only going to be used for breeding. I also realized that I needed to start a Megatherium bloodline for the broodmother. They get a 4 times damage buff when they kill bugs, so they're beasts at killing the broodmother. I prepared a trap and narcotics for taming them. I set out to the snow in search of a Megatherium on day 24. After about 15 minutes of searching, I found the jackpot, a level 174 male Megatherium. I constructed a trap and killed all neighboring creatures. I then led it into the trap and started knocking it out and taming it. I then got really lucky on my way back to base and found a unicorn. I thought about taming it, but I realized it was just too much of a hassle to do, so I dropped it back to the snow, hoping a unicorn would eat it. When I got back to base, I just continued to breed Rexes and awkwardly walk around my base waiting for eggs to hatch. I also talked to my friends on Discord because I was bored. Day 25 and I was 1/4 of the way done. I continued to talk to my friends on Discord while I flew to the snow to quiet my Megatherium that I just tamed. I also continued to breed
So how do you know
Rexes.
this?
I then farmed some fiber with John Cena in the evening, and I also started to place railings around my breeding platform so that I wouldn't accidentally fall off. I was pretty lucky while breeding Rexes, and I also got a perfect female. Now I could start stacking mutations for the bosses. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. I don't want to record an outro because that'll look like Dan TDM from 2016.